Ever wonder if a collection of ancient myths could actually be a kind of historical map? Well, today we're diving into the Puranas, these incredible ancient texts that hold some seriously surprising clues to the real kings and kingdoms of ancient India.
I mean, seriously, just think about that for a second. How do you piece together a history from 2,500 years ago? It's this massive, complicated puzzle, especially when the most obvious clues, the things you'd expect to find, are often just missing. And honestly, that challenge is exactly what makes the story of ancient India so fascinating to untangle.
So that brings us right to ancient history's great puzzle. For any historian working on this period, it's a lot like being a detective. You're trying to solve this giant case, but all you have are a few scattered, fragmented clues to work with.
You see, for so many of these early kingdoms, the hard evidence we love, things like dated coins or royal inscriptions carved in stone, it's incredibly hard to come by. So if you can't dig the answers out of the ground, you've got to look somewhere else. And sometimes you find them in the most unexpected places.
And that unexpected place is this unlikely archive, the Puranas. Now, you might just think of them as religious epics, full of stories about gods and demons, right? But hidden inside all of that is an absolute treasure trove of very real, very tangible historical clues.
Okay, so what exactly is a Purana? Well, the word itself literally just means ancient narrative or old story. They're this massive collection of texts, but here's the key thing. Unlike other sacred texts like the Vedas, which were often more exclusive, the Puranas were for everyone. They were public knowledge, the stories people told to pass on culture and history from one generation to the next. And they all tend to follow this similar five-part structure. You've got the creation of the universe, its recreation after a cosmic wipeout, the family trees of gods and sages, huge, sweeping cosmic cycles, all stuff you'd kind of expect, right? But then there's that fifth one, Vamshrucharita, and this one translates to the history of royal dynasties. For a historian, that's the jackpot.
And this is the exact moment where the Puranas transform from just myth into a crucial historical source. This is where we start finding real kings hiding in plain sight, right inside these ancient stories.
Because buried deep inside all those epic, cosmic narratives, these Vamshanutra sections are exactly what they sound like. They're detailed lists, genealogies of kings, and the dynasties they ruled. For anyone trying to build a timeline of this period, this is pure gold.
Let's just take the powerful kingdom of Magadha as an example. Texts like the Vishnu Purana lay out a really clear line of succession. They tell us that the Nanda dynasty was followed by the famous Maurya dynasty, who were then followed by the Shungas, and after them, the Kanvas. That's a political timeline, preserved right inside a religious text. It's amazing.
And we're not talking about obscure, forgotten names here. The Puranas list the great rulers of the Maurya dynasty, and they list them in the correct order. Chandragupta, the dynasty's founder, then his son Bindusara, and then the most famous of them all, Ashoka the Great. These are giants of history, and their lineage is recorded right here.
And it gets even more specific. The Puranas don't just give us lists. They actually record huge political events. The Vishnu Purana, for example, details how the Maurya dynasty came to an end. It explains that the last king was actually overthrown by his own general, a man named Pushyamitra Shunga, who then started a whole new dynasty. I mean, that's a description of a coup d'etat.
But of course, a good historian can't just take these texts at face value. So how do we know this isn't all just some elaborate fiction? Well, this is where the really critical next step comes in: verification. It's all about putting the different pieces together.
And this is where the real detective work begins. Historians cross-reference these Puranic claims with other sources. For instance, the Puranas say the Nandas came before the Mauryas. You know who else says that? Greek historians writing at the time. The Puranas give the order of Mauryan kings. That order is confirmed by archaeological finds, like Ashoka's own rock inscriptions. The Puranas mention an even earlier dynasty, the Shishunagas, and they're corroborated by Buddhist and Jain texts. Every time these different sources align, the Puranas start to look more and more like a reliable guide. And the thing is, the Puranas offer so much more than just lists of kings. The Matsya Purana, for example, has whole chapters on architecture and town planning. The Markandeya Purana gives us descriptions of social life, like marriage customs. The Brahmanda Purana is almost like a geography textbook, describing the rivers of India. And the Agni Purana, that gets into the nitty-gritty of government and warfare. It's like a snapshot of an entire civilization.
So if these texts have all this incredible information, why aren't they just treated like straightforward history books? Well, this is where we have to have a balanced view. We have to acknowledge their incredible value and also their very real limitations.
So here are the challenges. For one, the Puranas mix mythology with historical fact seamlessly, without telling you which is which. They also don't really give us precise dates, which makes building an exact timeline tricky. Plus, the stories can be symbolic, not literal. And to top it all off, different Puranas can sometimes give conflicting accounts. That's why historians have to treat them carefully, as a vital clue, but not as the final word.
So what's the verdict? Well, no, the Puranas aren't perfect history books, not in the modern sense, but they are an absolutely irreplaceable starting point. Without the framework they provide, our understanding of ancient India would have these massive, unfillable gaps. Entire chapters of history would simply be missing.
And all this leaves us with a fascinating thought, doesn't it? Thousands of years from now, what parts of our modern culture, our movies, our social media, our news reports, what will future historians sift through to try and understand us? And how will they tell the difference between our facts and our fiction? What will they see as myth, and what will they see as history?